Madurai. This place has been continuously inhabited for over 2,500 years. Ancient texts suggest a merchant was passing through this space when he saw the god Indra worshipping under a kadamba tree. He reported this back and the Pundaya king decided to build a city here. But not just any city, a city that was designed like a lotus. The temple is the bud in the middle of it all, and the streets are the petals that radiate out square after square after square. This is sacred geometry, not just a master plan. But when you master plan a city with a singular point at the very center of it all, you design a target. And today we're going to discover how Madurai kept rising from the ashes over and over again. Let's get there.
Good morning, quick start to the day because I'm actually at the bus station already and I'm already on the right bus for Madurai. Halfway there, just got to the stop stand. I've actually quite enjoyed this bus ride, probably one of the nicest I've had. Like I'm in India, the he's driving sensibly, doesn't think he's an F1 driver. The scenery's been beautiful, people are just chatting away on the bus, chatting on the phone, chatting to each other. So it's been a good trip so far. To Madurai bus station. Hey, and the next stop now is just a short walk down the road. You can't beat coming to halfway around the world to look at one of the most beautiful temples in the world, and it's covered, the Gopuram, the main Gopuram is covered in timber scaffolding with green mesh nets on top. So we've got to the West Tower, and good news, this one you can see a lot more clearly. The beauty of it just peeking through the top.
I was disappointed, I'm not going to lie to you, but this does allow us to talk about how Madurai rose from the ashes time and time again. In the 14th century, the Delhi Sultanate, led by Malik Kafur, would smash their way into Madurai. They attacked the heart of Tamil civilization itself. The city that once traded with Rome was the heart of literary academia and controlled the pearl trade from here down to Sri Lanka would come under fire. All of it was looted. The towers were destroyed and the inner sanctum was sealed for over 60 years. The Delhi Sultanate ruled from the ashes, and this period for Madurai has been described as one of extreme hardship. Most cities would have died here, but Madurai didn't. When Prince Kumara Kampana of the Vijayanagara Empire took back the city in 1378, he had a choice. He could leave the temple as ruins, or he could rebuild. He chose the latter. But the site you actually see today wasn't completed in its form until the 1600s. Enter Thirumalai Nayak, king, architect, visionary. In 1636, he didn't just restore Madurai, he reimagined it. He completed the massive Gopurams, he completed the golden lotus tank, the concentric square layout. He turned scars into monuments. Meenakshi Amman became the perfect embodiment of the philosophy. A scar is not to be celebrated, the healing is. And that in turn brings us to another wonderful concept, that of Jeernodharana. The idea of restoration and restoring, each time better and more magnificent than the last. But how do you actually heal a monument? Meenakshi Amman is a colossal temple. It is the height of construction. We are talking 14 massive gopurams, 33,000 statues across a site of more than 14 acres. And that all needs to be restored and maintained. And it is done so on a continuous cycle of around 12 years.
But it's taken them a year to get from here to here, and it's going to take them another year to get from here to here. And they do it. They repaint it every 12 years. And this has been 19 years because of COVID-19, so they had to leave it. We're going to have to come back. We're going to have to come back when that is done, because when you can see that just peeking through there, it looks unbelievable.
Each time this restoration process happens, there is a festival to celebrate the revealing. Kumbabhashekam, a ritual that sanctifies and re-energizes a deity's power. And at the heart of it all, you'll find the strangest construction material on planet Earth, Ashtabandhanam. And what this is a holy glue of sorts. It's made up of things like beeswax, jaggery, river sands, and ghee or butter. Yes, literal butter. Now you might be thinking, hang on, aren't cows holy in India? And yes, they absolutely are. And that's entirely the point. This glue is used to glue the pedestal of the main deity at the heart of a temple. And not only the pedestal, but the deity upon it.
Right, so time to get to the museum. This is Madurai, and Madurai, I don't know if I've said it yet or if I've posted anything that says it, but I've found the people here to be incredibly nice so far. I knock it up as one of the happiest places in India, with the nicest and friendliest people. Hopefully I don't get proved wrong today. But everybody so far has been super welcoming, super nice, super friendly. Friendliest spot in India. I was walking the wrong way. Oopsie.
Now this is a part of Thirumalai Nayak's palace, the very man who rebuilt Madurai in the 1600s. This place is technically perfect. It's a massive fusion of Dravidian and Persian styles. It's clean, it's preserved. It's exactly what a historic monument is meant to be. But as you walk through it, you realise something. It feels dead. There are no rituals here, there's no butter paste, there's no chanting, there's just tourists taking selfies and pigeons living in the rafters. It's beautiful, but nonetheless it is lifeless. And that made me realise that the chaos of the temple isn't a bug, it's a feature. The noise is the heartbeat of it all. The palace is history, but the temple is alive.
So you win some and you lose some, and today we lost one, but not by much. It was still pretty incredible inside despite the scaffolding. Now, you've got to put this into context really, because Hindu culture believes in renewal and it believes in regeneration, and it's the same with the buildings as it is for human life. I mean, they maintain, they restore and they regenerate their buildings. Inside they're doing a lot of work at the minute, replacing columns and things like that, which in some ways seems crazy because you think about how ancient some of those columns are, but then, you know, it'll keep the building standing for another few thousand years potentially. I mean, it's not the oldest temple on the planet. It's nowhere near as old as the Chula stuff that we've seen. The human time that it's taken to produce something like that is really unfathomable almost. And actually kind of to the point where I'm surprised this is not more spoken about in architectural circles and generally in the grander scheme of the greatest architecture on planet Earth, because it can't be far off.
I went to Madurai to go and see some of the most impressive gopurams on planet Earth, and instead I was left slightly disappointed. But what I did get was an important lesson about how we treat our buildings. Madurai exists today because people refuse to let it die. It rose again in 1378, and then it was built upon in 1636. And because of that, it thrives today. It's still a bustling hub of Tamil Nadu. What Jeernodharana shows us is that we need to look after our buildings so that they can stay energized, they can stay lived in, they can stay used. And after all, isn't that what architecture is for? To be used. Next time, we're going to Mysore. See you there.
So this is it. This is the mashup in the very best way. Look at those beautiful red domes. So the one in the very center is gold plated